Your team seems to be playing well in every aspect of the game: offense, defense, special teams. Each of those areas, you can pick out some positive things that have been going on.
Yeah.
Which of those areas would you say you're most pleased with so far?
It's a team game, so you look at the entire team, how it all fits together. For the fact that the kickoff team has done just a great job of getting better each week. It's historically we've had some challenges, and Coach Shoemaker's doing a good job of getting his crew ready to go. So I like the way we're covering. I like the way that they cause a turnover. Obviously, to see the offensive passing game continue with each week get better and more efficient. It's hitting the big play, going over the top. That's real exciting because we need that for our entire scheme to be balanced that we want. Defensively, to see the way we're able to make adjustments and fit the run well is really good. We want to keep improving. We want to be a great run defense as well as a pass defense, and so to see that we're starting to fit things up, our guys are making the halftime adjustments we need. That's all what you want to have, because it's everybody has the answers come Sunday morning. It's do you have the answers mid-game and be able to adapt, and our guys are able to do that.
And then Jake Jones had a great game at defensive end last week. With all the sacks that he got last year, was able to get 2 sacks this last week. What is his ability to do that? What does that do for your defense?
Well, you have a guy who can get home. You've got in today's day and age, you have to be able to rush the passer, and you got to be able to do it with 4. And a guy with like Jake is a guy he can beat his one-on-one. He can win that, and then what happens is that we want him to be a guy that can perhaps maybe catch your attention during the pass protection and open up for the other guys. And this year's, I know statistically it's not the same for Jake, but he's been solid for us. And Jake's the kind of guy who's looking for the whole team to be successful. Numbers are great, but those type of things are end of the season things that you can look back. But in the middle of this all is that we want to be great defense, and Jake has been the tip of the spear to having the work ethic and the determination and the passion for this game. So that's infectious.
Did it feel like the team kicked it up a level, kicked it up a notch, maybe as a result of fixing maybe the approach that they had last year going into a game where they felt like they didn't leave their best game on the field?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, and just to see them what they want to do. So you see a group of guys this year, and that's what we want. The program's growing. The program's getting better. The coaches are saying the right things in the meetings. The seniors are saying the right things, and every week is a season, and for us, and as an independent, there's a lot of truth to that. So knowing that today's Monday, we're at the bottom of the mountain, and you just start to climb. You start to work hard, and our guys own that philosophy of how they prepare for themselves for the game. So that right there is where I'm really proud of this group and where the hunger they have. And we know that the Weber game is essentially talking about ancient Babylon now. It's ancient history. It's gone. There's nothing we can do about it. It has no equity for this future week except the lessons that we can learn from the game. And if we can remember the process about how much hard work it took to get ready for that game, then that's the value to the game is now.
Now, Coach, you guys have had balance running the ball. 5 guys, different guys scored on Saturday. And it seems like your passing game's kind of the same way. How important is it to mix it up and keep defenses honest so that they can't key on one guy?
Well, I think what it does show is for our scheme, the ball could go anywhere in a good way. I mean, we have a quarterback that can get busy with his legs. We've got running backs that are threats, and then we have receivers who can catch the ball and make things happen. So when you run this style of offense, spread option style, you want to be able to have the weapons across the board to say we can maximize the entire field. And that's the whole idea of spread. But if you spread people out but don't have people that can be effective in those areas, and you might as well just huddle up together and just do wing T. Nothing against it, but that's probably a better philosophy if you don't have people who can manage the space well. And so, we have guys that are doing. We have guys that are also, it doesn't see in the stats, but are playing selfless football and doing the blocking that it takes for those guys to be successful. So our receiving core takes a lot of pride in how they block. So do the running backs take a lot of pride in when they don't have the ball, and but then it all comes back centered around our offensive line. They're the real true heroes of what's happening here, and how they're imposing themselves on their opponent, and that's the type of offensive line we want to have, and that's exciting. brand of football.
How would you evaluate that offensive line from maybe the start of the season now to the midpoint? How have they developed with a lot of experience coming into the year? How pleased are you with where they're at the midway point of the season?
Yeah, I just say I am very pleased with where they're going. We have some guys, especially this last week. Lance got a lot of playing time. People are stepping up in there, and they're owning the techniques that have to go with what our scheme is. You know, it's one thing to have athletes in there, one thing to have size in there, but if they don't own the techniques that are necessary to make themselves a successful football player, because when their athleticism hits a ceiling, then they're going to get themselves in trouble. When you have a coach like Jackie Slater, who will be perfectly honest with them all the time, is that in the back half of his career was that he just was able to understand his techniques well. He was able to understand the body mechanics well. That helped him become a Hall of Fame offensive lineman. For our guys that catch that philosophy and realize it's not just the show of an athleticism. Athleticism, everybody has athletes. But do you understand the techniques that go with it, the body mechanics that go with the hand placement, and also the communication that goes with becoming a great offensive line? And I'm seeing them own that. I'm seeing that week to week. They're being coached hard, and they're being challenged to keep growing their game, because we have not maximized the potential that this offensive line has, and that right there it's an exciting thing, but it's also a challenge to them. I know for a fact these guys can become even greater, and they need to keep that drive going, and I believe that with coaches' leadership, they're going to keep going.
And then as you wrap up a 6-game home stretch here, is there anything you do in practice this week, anything you implement, even though you're playing at home this week, but anything you start doing to prepare for going on the road for the first time next week?
Well, I think just at this point in the season, coming out of a staff meeting right now, is that we need to make sure we're keeping our guys fresh. When any team in the country hits the mid-season point, there's dings, there's bumps and bruises. You want to make sure you're getting your guys fresh and ready to go for the game. Traveling next week is just another part of that. So the philosophy shifts a little bit more for us this week to say are we getting our vital techniques refined? Are we getting our game plans refined? And doing that with a consciousness of we need to make sure to keep our guys fresh too. So we'll change some things in practice this week just because it's the point of the season to do that, not necessarily because of the travel coming up.
This week's opponent had a high ranking coming into the year, but they're coming off a bad loss at home. What do you expect from McPherson this week? What kind of game?
Honestly, I expect McPherson to be at their very best. I mean, they've got a quarterback that can run, and he's coming back. They've got a running back coming off a fabulous personal game. I know they lost, but I mean, Trayvon Jones, scored 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards rushing. Jake Snodgrass he's doing things with his legs. He's doing things with his arms. Similar offense. I know there's differences, but more of a gun run spread deal, like Weber. I think Coach Patassa is from what I know of him and being acquaintances, is that he does an outstanding job with his young men, and so they'll have a good team coming in here. And records at this point in the season can be a fooling mechanism. So we expect McPherson to play their best game, and so that's where it comes back to us, though. Will we get ourselves ready for our best game? That's the challenge every week. So what's happened thus far in the season, it's great, but it's at this point now it doesn't have any equity for this next week coming up. We got to build this thing over and get our focus right.
And then I guess how would you say, after playing your first NAI opponent, and we talked about the athleticism that Weber has, and that I think their overall record, based on some of their results, is a little bit misleading for the quality of athletes that they have on that team.
Right.
With that being the first NAI team, where would you place the first 4 games in your schedule comparable to some of the other NAI programs out there?
Well, we have, and I have to speak for ourselves. We play a real tough brand of football. The opponents that we play, they're not coming on the schedule unless they know their football. It's pretty hard for us to get games being independent, and so the teams that are willing to play us are usually those teams that they're also having a hard time getting games. And I would say this first half of the season has been the right collection of teams for us. And to have a team like Weber where, yeah, their record does not represent who they are. That was one of the most athletic, fast bunch of athletes that we've seen. And Coach Scott does an outstanding job with them. They're just misfiring, and that was the best game they have played, and they didn't turn the ball over at all except on the special teams. And so you see that the progression is just continuing to go up for them. So that's where I think a win like Weber, what just happened, that's a very good win for us because they were across the board one of the most athletic teams we've seen, if not a better athletic team. It's and so it was just good to see us play good disciplined football and continue to hammer away and to break through in the very end of the game, or well, the second half of the game, to bust it out.
And then the last question: What are your keys? What do you need to do well to beat McPherson?
For us, it's how we look at things. We need to look at our schemes, how our talent's matching up with our schemes, begin to understand, how can we find the people in our current program, begin to maximize them a little more. For example, Terrell Watson is a running back, but we also play him at defensive end in pass rush situations. He's an athlete that we need to fit in and get more snaps. So we're looking to find those guys in our program that can perhaps go even both ways. And I think for us as a coaching staff, when you could take the entire roster and say at the end of the year we maximize the roster, it wasn't just, I'm protecting this unit and I got them 4 deep, whatever. We're not that. So we need to be able to take the depth and we do have and put it in places where we don't have. And so that's kind of our challenge as coaches. We're excited about that, though. We have guys who are beginning to enjoy the responsibility of other positions. And now this week, it's begin to continue to refine ourselves and become that much better at what we do.
And then, each week is kind of a growth process.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this all year. What area would you really like to see growth and development with your team this week?
Well, I'd love to see our defense become a better 3-and-out defense, and I think they'll do that. They're on the right. They're catching that vision. They're understanding what that can do to a game. I'd like to see us offensively, knowing that our run game statistically has been very good. I personally believe there's a lot more on the table that we can get. I believe there's a lot more that our offensive line can give. Where I believe in these guys. I believe that they've got more strength and they've got more ability left in them to pound them even that much more. So we've got a long ways to go in this season, And for us, our guys, if anybody feels like we've arrived, they're on the wrong team right now. So we need to make sure that we're hungry to be our very best, and we are like that, and that is our seniors that leading that is this core group of guys who have been around with us a little bit. They understand the culture here of that. We're in a hunger for this thing every single week instead of trying to find an arrival point, because as soon as you try to rest in something, it's a falsehood, and you're doomed to fail at that point. So we'll keep it right. We'll get it going.